Okay, so, and think about moments when you felt really stressed, where you were so worried and could not stop eating, and just wonder, why are you always eating when you're feeling stressed or nervous, or some sort of emotions are going on? Some people are eating when they're angry, when they're frustrated, when they're sad. So all sorts of emotions that we experience as human beings, right? Because we are born with a variety of emotions. The question is, why do we do that? And why does it even often happen on autopilot without us even noticing? You're feeling stressed and then you find yourself elbow deep in a crisp bag, yeah? And think, why is it happening? I didn't even notice it. Well, that's what I would like to talk about today. What is really happening? Why do we do that? And then most importantly, what can you do instead? How can you change that behavior that's not serving you? Now, if you eat because you're stressed from time to time, that's not a problem, right? There is no worries about it. It doesn't affect your physical health. It doesn't affect your mental health. Then that's not a problem. But if it starts affecting your well-being, even maybe how you feel about yourself, maybe it happens so often and on a regular basis that it starts affecting your weight as well, then you might start feeling worried about that behavior, because you know it's not really serving you. And at the end of the day, if food is the only coping mechanism that you use in stressful situations, well, maybe there are other things that you can learn and do instead. So let's talk about that. First of all, what is the reason why we do that? We need to understand that in stressful situations, our brain, that is very, very old brain, it just does what it knows to do, which is going into a fight and flight mode. It believes there is danger. It believes it needs to prepare you for survival, right? So it believes there is a tiger behind you and it's just about to bite your bum. So what it does is it floods your brain with adrenaline and with cortisol. So it's two stress hormones, okay? And what it does, it also then hijacks your prefrontal cortex, so which is your brain part here, which is that rational part, which is that decision making brain. It shuts it down because it doesn't want you to start think rationally. It just wants you to do this. It wants you to react based on what the nature believes is right for us, yeah, on your instinct. We have those instincts to survive. So therefore, we are preparing ourselves to either freeze or to fight or to flee, so to run away. So it immediately hijacks that brain. As I said, that's why in that moment you go on autopilot and you just do what you've trained to do. You're just responding to your instincts. Okay, so that's the first thing. So you just act on what your brain is telling you to do. Now, because there was no tiger, right? You didn't run for a few hours to survive from that. There was just maybe a boss who said something to you that you feel was not appropriate, or the instead of the tiger was your partner or family member who really upset you, and just you feel very upset about the situation. So there could be also that reason. Could be anything. It could be there is so much work in your day that you are always in that survival mode. Or even coffee. You're having too much coffee. It releases cortisol levels. Your adrenals are constantly working. So your body thinks, again, you are in that survival mode. Okay, so what it does is, again, it spikes the cortisol and adrenaline. And because now your body thinks you've just ran from a tiger, it it uses a lot of energy at the same time. It thinks you just used a lot of energy where you really didn't do that. So now, because it thinks you just ran away from that tiger and it needs to prepare you for the next danger, you now crave calorie dense foods. It wants you to eat food that has a lot of calories so that you are prepared for next time. And it also not only just lets you crave those calorie dense foods, it also is now holding on to body fat, in particular around your stomach area, to save that fat for time when you need that energy again. Okay, so this is the reason why you crave calorie dense foods when you're stressed, like sugar, like processed carbs, something fatty, something salty. And also, unfortunately, what it does is it starts saving that fat around your organs, around your stomach. So that is one reason. The second one is, part of it is habit. Okay, the way we create habits, it starts often with a trigger, and I talk a lot about triggers. Let's just think about, let's say, an emotion. Yeah, there is a feeling. When you experience a feeling, that triggers a certain behavior, which is, let's say, eating a packet of biscuits. Now, that makes you feel good for that moment. It releases dopamine, so that feel-good hormone in your brain. You forget about that stress around you. You're in your bubble, you're in your zone, and it feels good. Now, if you've done that once and you feel good about it, your brain will remember it. Our brain will always go into repetitive behavior and do what it knows will keep you alive. It will want for you to do something that you've done so many times because it doesn't need to think about something new. Ideally, it wants to just keep doing the same things over and over again to save energy to think about new things. Okay? And as human beings, we always seek pleasure and avoid pain. Therefore, next time when you feel an emotion that you don't feel comfortable about, you are going, and your brain will remember it. It will send you that signal. Remember last time when we felt stressed, we ate something and we felt good. Let's do that again. So you will do that again and again. And the more often you repeat that, it becomes part of your body. It becomes part of what you do. And I'll give you another example. Think about a moment when you wanted to take some money out of the machine, yeah? Or some sort of PIN code you could not remember, or maybe you wanted to pay at the checkout and you could not remember the PIN. With your mind, with your brain, you could not remember it. But then when you try to kind of remember it with your body, so you went with your finger onto the numbers and started just dialing, and boom, you could remember. Your body could remember that number. That just shows us that your body has now been repeating that same behavior over and over again. Now your brain does not even to remember it. It is in your body. It has become a habit. Or another example, when let's say you had your cups in the cupboard in a certain place, okay? And then when you place them somewhere else, the first few, even days, maybe even weeks, you will constantly go back to the same position where those cups were, even though you remember where they are now. But before you even have the chance to think about it, you go and grab those cups and remember, oh no, I changed the position. They're not here anymore. As you see, your mind has become your body. It is embodied. Yeah, that's where the word comes from. We've embodied a certain behavior. We've embodied a certain habit. Now, it's exactly the same what happens when you feel stressed or when you are using food for other reasons other than, let's say, you are hungry. Yeah. Again, I'm not saying eating when you're not hungry is a problem. It's not a problem. It can become a problem if it's a constant and only mechanism that you're using. So just for you to understand that there is a lot of our decisions, in fact, 90% of our decisions are driven through the subconscious mind. 90% of our decisions, okay? So a lot of it is really in your body, in your mind, because you've been repeating the same behavior over and over again. You've practiced feeling certain feelings over and over again. The way we wire our brain, and it goes into subconscious, is repetition of certain behaviors, repetition of even certain feelings. That's why some people are just used to and are addicted to feeling always angry. Some people are addicted to always feeling sadness or frustration or whatever that feeling is. In the same way, we also get addicted, but more so we get into that habit. We embody a behavior. When we feel certain emotions, we then eat, therefore we feel good, and we will do that over and over again. And the more often we repeat that, we wire the brain, and now you do that on autopilot. You're not even noticing how you already are in the kitchen, open the cupboards, and are already eating again, even though last time you said to yourself, you're not going to do that anymore. So, what do we do about that? Yeah, knowing that it's part of how your brain is wired, it is an instinct that we have, and it's also a habit that you've created, a habit that you've embodied. Now, what we need to do is we need to rewire our brain, okay? We need to practice a new way of being. Because like you've practiced that way of being that you don't want to be, we now need to practice the other way of being. And that happens with time, guys. But we need to know what we need to do. First, remember what I said. How do we rewire our brain? Through thoughts, what we think, our brain gets it, okay? So it starts already creating new synapses in your brain and starts then firing and wiring those new patterns, those new synapses and ways of being. So it starts with our thoughts and then through experience, so our behaviors. Depending on what we think, feel, and do on repetition, that's how we wire our brain. So that is the basic of what we need to know about our brain and how we wire and rewire our brain. First of all, we need to understand that we need to unlearn to be ourselves. Yeah, we need to unlearn the habit of being ourselves. So we need to unprogram, reprogram, relearn, whatever words you want to use. First of all, we need to become aware, fully aware of all of our behaviors and thinking patterns. What are the constant thoughts that I'm experiencing? What are the thoughts that you're constantly thinking? Like, I'm lazy. Oh, I'm dumb. Oh my God, I'm so fat and ugly. I will never lose weight. I always eat for emotional reasons. I am an emotional eater. Yeah, I am an addict to food. I am addicted to food. All those phrases is what you are constantly repeating, and your brain picks up on that and thinks, yeah, that's who I am. I'm not going to change my identity. That's how I am. Also, being aware of all those emotions and feelings you're constantly experiencing on repetition. What is the feeling you are addicted to? What is your go-to feeling? I know some people, they're constantly sad. They're constantly sad or they're constantly depressed about something. And when you start trying to talk to them about things, you just really hear that's where they are comfortable. That's where they want to stay, in that feeling. Okay, so we need to be aware of that and be really, really honest with ourselves. And then we need to make a decision what we no longer want to feel, what we no longer want to experience and think. I am not saying you are not allowed to feel certain emotions. I really believe we need to feel all emotions and feelings, and we need to see them as a message. What does this feeling mean? Why am I feeling like this? And is there something that I need to act on? Okay? But if it's a constant go-to, then it's time, and it's really not serving you anymore. Then it's time to change how you feel. It's time to then really work on that. So be aware of your constant feelings, of your repetitive thoughts that you're experiencing, and then set an intention what you want to do instead. Next time when you're stressed, what are you going to do instead? What are the thoughts that you want to experience? What are the actions that you want to do? So for example, like next time you're stressed, you might say, well, I want to speak to the person who maybe why I'm upset. Yeah, or I want to start journaling to process my emotions and thoughts in a more powerful way. Or I am going to seek support and help, and will, with the help of that person, process what I'm feeling and learn new behaviors. So you want to set an intention so that your brain really already is practicing new way of thinking and new behaviors even before it happens. Because again, just through thoughts alone, you're practicing those new behaviors in your mind. You set an intention, you're already creating those pathways in your brain and synapses. Okay, and then when you start practicing those, you're starting wiring those behaviors, and then they will start firing. So what we wire, that's what we fire. Okay, we need to start then wiring, but that will happen automatically. So again, one more time, become fully aware of your habitual thoughts and feelings. Second, set an intention what you're going to be doing instead next time. What do you want to experience in terms of thoughts and behaviors and even feelings, what you're going to do with those feelings. Acknowledge them, understand them, and then set an intention where you want to go with those, and then practice it. Practice. Because remember, it's that repetitive behavior that wires our brain. It's that repetitive thoughts and feelings that wire our brain. Repetition is the mother of skill. So just repeat that same thing over and over again, and that will help you. So let me know in the comments. I really would love to hear from you. What is it that you're going to be doing next time when you feel stressed? And what is it that you're committing?